Hi guys, it's BlockTheMiddle reporting for TDF. This episode's on 3-in-1 movements. So before I get into kind of the movement patterns that you might see against different kinds of defences in your 3-in-1, we'll go through positions. So you've got a fix or Sierra, more defensive-minded player. You've got wingers in this instance, which are 4-on-3 for the Blues, and then you've got a pivot position. And you've obviously got your goalkeeper over here. So they're the kind of positions. Everything should be fluid when you're playing at the top level of the game. If you're starting out, obviously you're going to have these kind of positions there. So here we go. We are going to just work on how you try and receive the ball. So when you're receiving the ball, when you're playing to feet, the ball should be on the floor. Why? The ball's a little bit denser, therefore the ball's going to travel with quick speed, and you can instantly control that with your soul. If you're playing into spaces, so for example, before I go into the passes, if 3 plays that for 5 down the line, more often than not that will be a parallel pass, i.e. it will be lifted off the ground so that when it bounces, because it's more dense, it will stay in play. If you are to play that on the floor, it's probably going to run out of play, especially if you need to put a bit of pace on it to get it away from the defender. So there's just a couple of things to think about when you're going through your movements. So we're working with the blue team. And to start with, the defensive pressure from the Reds is going to be full press. So they're going to be pressing off triggers. So we've got our 5, which is our pivot, it's gone up the court. And we've got 2, 3 and 4 that are going to be in this kind of position, set up as a 3 and 1. Okay? So we've got our movements here. So the first pass we're going to look at against pressure, and this is kind of how a team should set up against it. 2 is going to be a little bit closer to 5. And these 2 are going to block the middle, 4 and 3. Okay, so the first pass that we're going to look at is a 1-2 or a wall pass. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is he's being pressed, number 2. He's going to cut. So he's going to take his defender away. Pressure's going to come onto the ball, and he's going to check. And then you've got this space here for a 1-2. So this is what we're opening up. You're trying to exploit little spaces. So here, because 2's checked, he's got that. 3 goes, and we're out. And then we can try and find the back post, or he makes a defender make a decision, depending on what the defender does. So that's one way of making a 1-2. What has that started from? Well, that's been a fix, or the bottom player is being pressed, and he has cut out of pressure. He's the initiator of the movement to get that 1-2. Now, the other thing that we can look at is a winger initiation of a 1-2. It doesn't have to be with the ball, but we're just going to show it in this instance with the ball. So 3's got the ball, so 3's going to press him, and depending on the pressure, depends on what the rest of the defensive team for the Reds are going to do. Here we are. So, okay, he's going to play back into the fix, and because he's being pressed, he has to move. So he's going to move positively up the court, and then he's going to cut and check into the middle. Ball's being played out the side, pressure on here. Guess what we've got? We've exploited the space for a 1-2. So bang, bang, out we go. That is a wall pass or a 1-2, and that can be a winger-initiated movement, or it can be a fix-initiated movement when you're being pressed. Next pass, which is working on playing into space, so you're going to have to lift the ball and make it bounce. The making the bounce makes the ball stay in play. So watch. We have fix initiation and movement. Again, these are just simple ideas. There's many more, but these are just a few to think about. 2's under pressure, plays wide, and he's going to get pressed here. 2 runs and then curves his movement, and then 4 on this side of the court, probably be a left foot. He's going to scoop, parallel pass for 2 to run onto, and he's out. Okay, so that's pass number 2, a parallel pass, and you can do that as a, just in the way that the wall pass was there, you can do that with a fix or a Sierra or a backman kind of initiated movement, where he gets played, pressure on the ball, cut, he's going to go and help him, he's going to go and run for the parallel here, and the parallel's played for him to run onto. Now, just in the same way that the winger can initiate the movement for a wall pass, you can do it for a parallel as well. So imagine 4's got the ball here, pressure on the ball, we'll get the pivot out the other side. Ball gets played in, he's going to cut, and he's going to check into the middle. As that ball's come out, going to put pressure on. 4's going to come across to go and help him. Is the 1-2 on? No, so he's going to spin, and we get the parallel for him to run out. And that is another way of getting out under pressure. Now, the third way, and this is more of an attacking rather than a get out of pressure in your own area, but you can definitely do it in your own area as well, is we'll get the pivot on one side, okay, and we're higher up the court. So this might be when a team sits and zones up a little bit more than pressing, but it's just one example of what might happen. So imagine the winger's got the ball here. So he's going to get pressed. In this area of the court, if half-court zonal pressure, he's played into a fix. What's he going to do? He's going to cut, and he's going to check into the middle to lose his defender. Ball's going to get played outside, pressure on the ball. Now here, the ball goes in, and he's holding the ball up and being clever and waiting for some counter movement from 4, you know, try and show him one way to go the other to create space. So instead of going for the 1-2, and instead of running for parallels, he might, in this instance, and think about Messi for Barcelona, who does it time and time again in a football context. You've got 4, takes him line, so he moves him, comes inside, and then he's set, shot. And that we really call a helping pass. So there are 3 ways of creating really clever movements, and you're not really utilising your pivot. So a lot of these movements are not using the pivot. Now, last one we're going to go through, if you're playing against a team that's going to sit and zone out a little bit, so they're not really going to press high up the court, they're going to zone in here, this is how we're going to set up. For you to think about, if you're using a pivot and you're using a 3-and-1, you don't want your pivot to be moving across. Why? Because he's never going to be on. You need to be standing still at some point so that, remember the principles of the game, which we kind of mentioned right at the beginning, if you want to play on the floor, it's got to be to feet. If you're going to play into space, you've got to lift it and make it bounce. Why? More often than not, is because it will stay in play. So, in this example, pivot's going to come wide. Their fixed defending can't go there because he's going to open up all this space. So he's going to be off a little bit. And that is pretty much going to be the shape that you would play against defensively, against a decent team that know what they're doing defensively. So, what they can do is 3's decided not to go. He's played back to his fix. 4 is now got a bit of pressure on him. What can he do? Well, here's something to think about. Here are some movements to think about. If 4 cuts, and that just means moves positively diagonally, he's going to go with him. What have we opened up? We've opened up the pivot pass. 4 can carry on running to the back post so that he might be on there. We've got 2 that's come into support, and 3 might dart into the middle to get a shot. Okay, so the 3 kind of movements there. We'll just quickly run through them again. And this is just one kind of idea. There's millions, there's loads, and we'll probably do it in a future episode. But what you've got to think about is getting a pivot on one side of the court. Okay. Fix has got the ball. 5 has decided, well, look, I'm going to go and create space here for my mate, which is the pivot, number 4. Balls get played in. 5's going to continue his run because he might be on at the back post. He's blocked it off there. 2's come for support. Guess what he's opened up? All this space in the middle of the court for 3 to run into and perhaps get a shot there. So they're kind of some of the ways there. You've got a wall pass, you've got a parallel pass, you've got a helping pass, and if a team's going to sit, you can start utilising your pivot a little bit more in high areas of the court. But what's most important is that the pivot isn't running left and right. He can be clever with his movement and go yes, and then open out to lose his defender, but he's not doing that. He's being clever with his movement, not running like a headless chicken.